last week, I've been actively using the new iPhone 14 Pro, and I do have something to say. This year's release didn't go as smoothly as Apple hoped it would. This phone gave me so many different emotions, both good and bad, and now when I'm done playing with it, I can make a solid conclusion on whether you should buy this phone or wait another year. But let's start with discussing what has changed in a good way and kick it off with the most visible change we see: the screen. It has received a noticeable upgrade over the 13 Pro. Now it's brighter and slightly bigger. Now it can go up to 2000 nits instead of 1000 nits on the 13 Pro. This difference may be seen only outdoors with outer brightness turned on. The sun wasn't around to assist in testing, but our really bright light panel did the job. The difference is there, but almost unnoticeable to the naked eye. And if we take throttling into account, most of the time the brightness will be more or less equal to the last year's flagship. But we both know you're not here to listen to me ranting about the brightness. You're here to find out whether the dynamic island is a feature or a gimmick. The presentation did portray it as a revolutionary feature, but after a week, I do have reasons to doubt it. Let me explain. I must admit, the first few days after I've received this iPhone, I just couldn't help but pointlessly open apps checking how the Peninsula will adapt. It's really something that gives a feeling of a totally new phone. But if we put the feeling of novelty aside, how does the dynamic island change the user experience? Well, I can confidently say that this feature is a really nice addition. Now I can see what music is playing, how long it's left until the timer buzzes, and a ton of other things. And I'm a YouTuber, so my job is to show you pros and cons, and one of the disadvantages, the list of apps that support this feature is low now. I'm sure a few months from now there will be a ton of useful applications, but now it feels more like a feature just for the sake of it. Before we tackle that insanely loud camera gate issue, let's finish the screen off. The always on screen. Well, for me, this feature isn't really working all that well. Don't get me wrong, it's a great feature, but the way Apple implemented it just totally throws me off. It's just too bright. I think giving us the ability to change the brightness of this always on screen would be nice. It seems to be on all the time. This brightness varies depending on your environment. The screen even turns off when it's too dark, like in a dark bedroom, so it won't distract you when you sleep. The overall design is smart and well thought out, but the point still stands. Too bright. Yeah, it looks nice, but I often find myself placing the phone face down just not to be distracted by it. Additionally, it decreases the battery life by about 4 to 5%. I don't know what was the point of adding this feature, but they totally effed up to deliver a good battery life. 13 Pro easily lasted almost 2 days for me, but the new 14 Pro is barely enough to get me through the second day's breakfast. The performance. That's probably the least problematic part of everyone's user experience with this phone, but is the A16 really as good as Apple claims it to be? Well, the improvements are real, but they aren't all that noticeable. The only thing I was worried about was throttling. The iPhone 13 Pro was notorious for throttling, so has anything changed? Well, it didn't change that much. Throttling is still an issue, so be ready to use your fancy new iPhone at 50% brightness. Besides that, the overall performance is still top-notch. It's enough for any task you can throw at it, but I dare you to notice the difference between the 13 Pro and 14 Pro. It's minuscule. The one thing that really grinds my gears is the software and how raw the third-party apps are. I know this is more in relation to this dynamic island, but some third-party apps are somewhat unusable. The resolution has changed, and now developers must rework their apps for these new screens. And until they do, we'll struggle with incorrectly placed elements, buttons, texts. Who knows how long it will take for them to release updates. That's really frustrating, especially after you pay $1,000 for a new phone. One more thing about software: when you are recording your screen, the cutout stays as a black element on the video itself. That's not a very good thing. We never had that before. Now let's move to something that's really important: the camera. The camera system has received the biggest upgrade since 2016. The main sensor is 48 megapixel, and the results I got are not all that obvious. See for yourself. The dynamic range is improved, the colors are slightly more vivid and realistic. Thanks to the bigger sensor, the focal distance is now bigger, resulting in a better bokeh. The small thing I've noticed are the blurry edges on close-up shots. Let's take faces for example. On the 13 Pro, the whole image stays sharp and in focus, but the 14 Pro really gives those soft edges to everything outside the center. Maybe for landscapes this isn't noticeable, but for close-ups it can be a deal breaker. Additionally, the field of view has changed, but not in a good way. The image now is wider, which is obviously great for landscape photography, but it is awful for portraits. Also, Apple has said a lot about improved low light performance. Personally, I can see the improvements, but they are not as significant as you can expect. Those claims of 2 times better shots in reality translate to approximately 30% improvement. The tricky thing is that these improvements are noticeable only when you look closer. Less noise, better exposure, and white balance, more details. But if you're looking at the photos only on your phone's screen or in social media, the difference is not as noticeable. Low light shots are better, but not enough to justify the purchase. Oh, and those ProRAW images, definitely not my main mode. The image quality is noticeably better when compared side by side. There are more details, the colors are softer, less vibrant. No matter what you are photographing, it will look visibly better with ProRAW turned on. The true difference can be seen after editing the image. It is night and day, especially when you look closer. The depth of the image, the textures, the shadows, just the way they are, without too many computational photography algorithms. This mode does preserve all the details and colors. I can see myself using it on really memorable moments, but daily, I will prefer basic 12 megapixel photos. Now, it should get interesting. The shaky camera. Sadly or luckily, my phone isn't subjected to this issue. Some users have reported that their cameras, when using third-party apps, were buzzing, vibrating, and producing awful-looking footage, but the software update did emerge rather quickly and hopefully fixed this issue. And if not, well, we have a difficult conversation coming, Apple. The next features we're gonna discuss are also problematic. The updated cinematic mode does detect edges better and supports 4K resolution at 24 FPS, but the colors are inconsistent. How it can even be called cinematic when you have zero control over the white balance? Plus, if you're trying to shoot cinematic videos in less well-lit environments, everything starts looking like an oil painting. It's great that Apple updates this mode and gives the opportunity to regular people to feel like pro filmmakers, but there is a long way to go until this mode will really become cinematic. And the action mode, well, I got mixed feelings about it. This mode has one big issue: quality. And I'm not talking about the 2.8K resolution, but about the video itself. The phone does use the ultra-wide lens by default, which results in very low detailed images. No matter which lens you choose manually, there will still be grain, noise, and poor detailization. That's the issue beyond solving. I would recommend using this mode only in well-lit environments. If you're trying to capture the memorable moment and there is a lot of light, this action mode is a savior. But in low light, it would be better to shoot regular video. The front-facing camera is better and has autofocus. Luckily, Apple did everything right here. The faces are sharper, more detailed, and lit better. Skin tone is more accurate. Thanks to the new processing algorithms, the difference is more apparent in the low light. The photos have less noise, flares, and are better detailed. Those who love selfies will surely notice a difference. Overall, I can conclude that the camera upgrade we've got can't justify the purchase of the new iPhone 14 Pro. The photos are only a tiny bit better, which is totally negligible. The build quality is exceptional, nothing interesting here. The body is virtually identical to the 13 Pro, so you won't notice any difference in terms of sensation. All elements are fit together nicely, no gaps or uneven seams are present. It's a premium phone, so it totally satisfies all expectations in this domain. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test the satellite connectivity because it's not yet available in my area, so let's leave that for later. I promise to make a video as soon as I get lost somewhere. I just hope that feature will save me, because if not, well, there will be no video for you. On the other hand, I was lucky not to test the crash detection. I know you want me to test it out, but I do value my life. And money. 20k subs, what do you want from me? A crash test? Let's make it 100k at least. Anyway, I believe this feature works really well. What can I say in the end? Is the iPhone 14 Pro a worthy upgrade? The camera is better, the screen is better, a ton of new features, but would I spend my money on it? Well, yes, but actually no. I think that those upgrades we've got are equally balanced with all the problems. Thus, the overall list of benefits over the 13 Pro is rather small, but it's my job to test everything out, so I will use it for a while. Maybe it will grow on me, or maybe I will switch back to my 13 Pro. Stick around to find out.